name of Allah, the Creator, the All-Knowing, the Author, the Sustainer of a new Muslim, or their life, or where they came from, or their background. So thus, one of the reasons why we're doing this event is many reasons. One of the primary reasons is for us as a community to know what a new Muslim goes through. SubhanAllah. Many of us probably were born into a Muslim family, right? And maybe we came back to Islam some years ago, whatever time it was. But for someone to leave everything for the sake of Allah and come to Allah, to come to God, it's something that we need to hear about, because their journeys are something that are very emotional. There's a lot to it. And this is the reason why today, on behalf of the Islamic Institute of Orange County, I'm very honored that we have 3 panelists with us today, 3 of our brothers and sisters that are going to join afterwards. So please, if any come up, and we're going to have a Q&A, ask questions, which I hope everyone does for our brothers and sisters, I want you to write it down. Yeah, write it down for me. So this way at the end, we'll pass the mic around, and we're going to go ahead and we'll ask questions at that time. If there's any concerns, anything like that as well, you can address that at the end. Secondly, we have a sign-up sheet outside, our dawah table outside. This is for many different reasons. One being that on behalf of the outreach community here, we're actually trying to play catch-up. We have so many requests. We're trying to field so many requests, presentations in churches, in schools, many new Muslims accepting Islam. For those of you, how many were here in the Friday sermon today? The khutbah? At the end, we'll pass the mic around, and we're going to go ahead and the second one. Okay, so you heard a statistic about 130 people, plus or minus, accepted Islam here at this masjid, IIOC, just in the past year. About 130, can you believe that? SubhanAllah. The question is, what happens after? Right? That should be a question everybody should ask. What happens after? Are they still Muslim? Did anybody get their contact information? Anybody get their email address? It's just not just a hug and Allahu Akbar and then that's it, you forget about them. No, this is the beginning of the journey, right? So this is one of the reasons why here in our community at IIOC, we want to really stress the support system for new Muslims. So for those of you that might be interested to be a mentor, that want to help out with maybe even at a dawah table, passing out Qur'ans, want to be a tour guide, many people want to come to the mosque and take a tour of the masjid. All these services we have here for free that we want to offer, thus I need your help as well. 1, 2, or 3 people can't do it by themselves. So the table is outside. Kindly sign up on your way out, your first name, last name, and your email address, inshallah. And finally, before we start, we have our monthly open house. Just want to let everybody know, inshallah. It will be this Sunday. So for those of you that have any non-Muslim co-workers, friends, family members, this is the opportune time for you to bring them. It's from 12 to 1 p.m., the last Sunday of the month, which is going to be this Sunday in a few days, inshallah. So keep that in mind. The flyers are outside. And inshallah, having said that, let's go ahead and get started. Our first guest, our first new Muslim that we want to talk to and have her share her story with us is our dear sister, Vanessa Sarver. Sister Vanessa, if I can have you come up here, please. I really appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you doing today, Sister Vanessa?
Alhamdulillah.
I'm very excited to have you here. Let me just say that first.
Thank you.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So Sister Vanessa, for those of you that know, she's, I'm not going to give her whole story, she's going to do that, inshallah, but she's been very active in our community in the little time that she's been here. And little time that she's been a Muslim as well, she's done a lot. And we want to take a journey with Sister Vanessa and kind of see what brought her to Islam and so forth. So Sister Vanessa, if I can just ask you, because we want to do an overview. Again, I wish that we had 2, 3, 4 hours. Literally, you can sit down, brothers and sisters, and when you speak to a new Muslim, you can spend hours and you'll get lost in time, because their stories are so emotional and everybody's story is different. So we have about 15, 20 minutes. We can't do justice to the topic, but we'll try to do our best, right? So Sister Vanessa, if you can just give me an overview about your life before accepting Islam. How was your life before accepting Islam, inshallah?
Turbulent. From a Lutheran Roman Catholic background, out of religiously, which is kind of conflicting. I grew up in New York, so
we'll just raise the mic up just a little bit.
My background's a little bit rough. There was a lot of focus on God, but there wasn't much practice. So over the years, you kind of come away from I came away from religion and God because there were so many questions and so much struggle. It became a conflict, so I just stepped away.
So would you say, having said that, would you say at this point in your life, that point, right, before Islam, did you consider yourself like an atheist? Or did you consider someone who believed in God, but you just didn't follow as like a specific religion?
I believed always in God. My mother has a very strong belief. Again, not practicing, but he's always present. I couldn't practice how I was being taught. I couldn't understand praying to somebody other than God and the Trinity and these things that the church won't answer for you. So I kind of started doing things on my own in the way I thought was the best way to practice, which is almost more dangerous.
Meaning like just starting your own way of life, religion kind of thing, or what you felt was the right way to worship God?
Right. I didn't feel I needed to worship in a church.
Okay.
I didn't feel I needed to speak through Jesus or any one of the saints on the wall. I didn't feel I needed to do these things, so I kind of just prayed wherever I was, if I did pray. And you're also taught that whatever you do, you're forgiven. So this leaves a gap, sort of, to kind of do whatever you feel you want to do and still think that in the end you're okay when you're really not.
So when you mention prayer, meaning like you used to pray, can you elaborate on that? Like a physical prayer, like a supplication? What would you do as far as like reaching out to the Creator that you believed in at that time?
Just talking to Him.
Like what would you say? You don't have to go in detail, but just curious as far as like what would you say?
Just, you know, depending on what struggle you're going through, and very similar to our own dua, like praise now. It's just whatever it is that you're going through at the time, asking for some support. Where are you?
Right.
Why is this happening? That kind of thing.
And you would be reaching out to God Himself, or would you be? I know you mentioned that you didn't believe in mediators or going through somebody, so
Yeah.
you would just say, "Oh God, guide me. Oh God, help me."
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
Were you around the Anaheim area or in Southern California, or where was your journey?
I grew up in New York, but I started to. I lived in Massachusetts when I found Islam.
Okay, so New York first, and then you went to Massachusetts?
Yes.
Boston, or that's like the
Yeah.
only part I know about Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So Boston.
Yes, a little bit outside Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay, sounds good. So, and this process was how long when you were searching? Meaning when you left Christianity or Catholicism with the Lutheran denomination, how long was this journey before you actually, as you were searching for your purpose?
I was 30 years old when I found Islam.
Okay, and that journey was, would you say, a few years before you actually found Islam? But you searching for your purpose?
It's all my life.
All your life? Subhanallah. See, there's some people out there, brothers and sisters, that they understand this concept of I need to find out who my Creator is and what my Creator wants. Not to blindly follow anything, right? That's what Allah says in the Quran. Don't blindly follow anything. Investigate, research. And this is what I'm hearing from, alhamdulillah, from Sister Vanessa. This is the same reason, alhamdulillah. So then let me ask you, Sister Vanessa, from this point now, you're in New York or Massachusetts or East Coast. You're searching for your purpose in life. You believe in a Creator, but you don't follow any specific religion. What was your first interaction to Islam then? Or what was your first, meeting with Islam or a Muslim? Or
I met a friend who is Muslim right before my 30th birthday.
Okay.
And that was my first interaction with Islam.
Okay.
Was through a Muslim.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that? Meaning, did you get something passed to you, like a Quran? Did this person just elaborate to you what Islam was? What was that like?
We met as just friends, normal. I didn't realize he was Muslim at the time.
Okay.
We became like best friends, and then Ramadan came.
Oh.
And
the big R word. Ramadan.
Yeah, and he had mentioned a few things about what needed to be done, what happens, and for an American, the idea of anything, giving anything up, is unheard of. It's just something you don't do, like not drinking water all day, not like this idea tripped me out so bad that it led me to go to the library and take books about Ramadan, because I needed to understand how anybody would feel to do the type of things that this person was explaining to me. So that started it.
So that started Ramadan. So tell us about the experience. I'm curious. So you go to the library, right? You want to get books on Ramadan.
Yes.
What do? Do you ask the librarian? Do you just go into like the religion section? Like,
yeah.
What did you do? How did you do it?
Yeah, I just went in.
You just went in?
Yeah, they aren't. This was a library in New Hampshire, and
did they have books on Islam in New Hampshire?
It was really something to even find something in that library. So nobody really helped me. I just went in and started digging, and yeah, I found a few books and I read through them. It was so interesting. And in these books, it elaborates and it mentions things about Islam that cause you to take more books and to take out more books and more books to find out what does this mean, what are they talking about in this concept. And the difference between my culture here in America versus Islamic beliefs and ideas is really very interesting for someone with an open mind to hear and to read about, and it just kept me going back for more.
How many books did you read?
I can't even.
Really?
Probably more than 10.
Subhanallah. How many people in here have read at least like 5 books about Islam? I'm being serious, though. Nobody raised their hand. So we have a sister reading 10 books before Islam, 10 books about knowing about Islam. Subhanallah. That's very interesting. Okay, so you read about approximately, let's say, 10 books. You're studying about Islam. Did you counter the fear of Ramadan? Meaning, like, did you understand it and the benefit and the beauty behind it?
I didn't really grasp. I did until I did Ramadan myself. I didn't understand. You
still didn't understand, even after the reading and everything?
No, because Ramadan is something on some other level outside of words.
Okay.
And you don't experience it till you
actually do it, right?
Do it,
SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. So now, so you study now for a long time, you're reading these books. What's if I may ask, what is the point that you came across in your life to say, you know what, I want to do this. Like, it makes sense, I understand this to the best of my ability, I believe in the Creator is one. What was the last thing that kind of made you say, you know what, I want to become a Muslim?
Just that there wasn't anything, there's no community in the book, in books. There aren't people, there aren't friends, and it just was, and you have so much questions that these books don't really answer. And it just got, and I was annoying my friend to the point where they were like, go to the masjid and talk to a sheikh there and ask them, because I don't know what else to tell you, you know. And then when I came, they were like asking questions, and it was like, I had covered the basis pretty thoroughly, and it was just to do my Shahada. That was all.
SubhanAllah. So everything made sense to you. You yourself said, well, I just need to kind of do it because it kind of makes sense.
And I never thought I was allowed to come to the masjid. Like, I didn't know I was allowed to come into a masjid.
You see, this is
a terrible misconception I had.
That's a very interesting point. This is one of the reasons we want to derive benefit from these talks. If you just listen to what our sister said, she said what? Help me out here. What did she say? She thought she was not allowed to come to the masjid. This is one person. How many thousands, if not millions of people outside the masjid probably think the same thing today? This is why, this is my plug, our open house, right? Our monthly open house. That is every last Sunday of the month. We invite non-Muslims to come and see what the mosque is. We have a tour guide. This is something we try to do to the best of our abilities, right? Now, it's not only the last Sunday, meaning if they can't make it, any other day is fine. Let me know, right? Again, our table's outside to sign up, but if you haven't as of yet invited somebody, Vanessa, I'm going to get right to you. 1 minute, right? Do it. If you haven't as of yet invited somebody to come to the mosque, you really need to do it, especially if you're working like in a corporate field, regardless of what job you have. If you're going to school right now, whatever it might be, you need to invite. We have these flyers, again, outside on the table. Take one, please. Take one, invite your neighbor, co-workers, whoever you think would benefit, and everybody obviously would benefit. So please do your best regarding that. Okay, so I'm very interested, sorry. East Coast, you find out about Islam. Now, have you already made your shift over here to California?
Yes.
You have, okay. And so when you come to meet the sheikh, where did you go? What mosque did you go to? How did you find out about the mosque? Take us through that.
I went online and started searching for masjids in the area, and this one had an outreach center. This one had an outreach center.
Sorry. I want to make sure everybody can hear. So. I keep telling her to Jazakallah. Alhamdulillah. One more time.
Masjid Al Farouk had an outreach center.
Alhamdulillah. Why I want that to be stressed is because we actually have an outreach dawah department here in the mosque, right? So I want everybody to fully utilize that and make sure it's ingrained in everybody's minds, okay? Okay, alhamdulillah.
An excellent outreach center. It's
okay, inshallah.
Wonderful.
So you just searched online, you found the IIOC Masjid Umar Farouk, the outreach. So did you just call them?
Yeah, I believe I made an appointment to meet with Sheikh Mustafa.
Sheikh Mustafa, our dear Sheikh. I know I see the Sheikh here somewhere.
I think that's how it happened.
Allah bless you. So you sat down with Sheikh Mustafa.
And Brother Zuhair.
And Brother Zuhair, mashallah.
Yes.
And then, so fast forward, everything made sense, and they're basically saying, well, you understand everything about Islam, just kind of take your Shahada.
Wait.
Were you forced?
Yes, no, I wasn't.
It's live. You weren't forced, were you?
No, of course
This
not.
is your choice?
Yes.
Okay, and then you just made the declaration and you accepted Islam?
Yes.
And when was that exactly, or approximately how long?
A year ago this month.
A year ago this month?
Yes, sir.
MashaAllah. Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah.
1 year ago, about, subhanAllah, this month. Okay. Now you're Muslim, right?
Yes.
Tell me, you leave the mosque, what do you feel like? Like you take your Shahada, your declaration of faith, yeah?
Yes.
What do you feel at that moment, and what do you feel like as you leave the mosque? Do you feel like it's a new life? Do you feel like the same? Take us through that.
Like free, you know. It was like 3 years of just kind of being by myself and like undercover, you know. So it just was like free for me.
So you felt free.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, and the reason I'm asking this, remember, because majority of us in here probably are born into a Muslim family, so you don't really understand how it feels when you take a Shahada, what it feels like, right? Because you're born into a Muslim family, you might not understand. This is why it's good to get the perspective from someone who did do that, right? So, alhamdulillah, that's amazing. And I don't want to hold you too long, but one more thing I wanted to ask. We have many, obviously, our audience here, our guests here, and we're going to have, again, a Q&A session afterwards, so please, if you have any questions, write them down, and we'll address them at the end. What feedback or what suggestions or advice would you give to our audience here, Muslim audience? We have non-Muslim guests here. It's being live streamed, so people maybe all over the world, not to make you nervous, maybe people all over the world are watching this. If somebody's in your shoes, yeah, and they're trying to search for their purpose of life, right?
Okay.
Purpose of life. They're trying to get closer to the Creator. What advice would you give them?
I tell people and sisters that are interested to study. That was my understanding what you're getting into and getting as much information and answers to your questions as possible was key for me, and that's the best advice I can give. And to make sure that you're getting your information from solid sources, solid books, solid people, because there's a lot of culture and misunderstanding that flies around as well. So,
alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
And maybe something for our audience as well. Anything any advice you would like to give them?
I would say,
in addition to that,
as Muslims, what brought me to Islam is how a Muslim behaved and how a Muslim thought and how he dealt with people. This brought me to Islam, and I always tell people we are a walking dawah, especially the sisters, you know, with their heads covered. We're just walking, and how we behave and how we treat people, you'd never know who's listening and how your behavior is going to affect someone. And this is the best advice I would give, because it turned my life around and it brought me here, just from somebody being true to Allah and His religion. So that's my best advice.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you. May Allah reward you. Thank you so much. And we want you back here for our Q&A session. Brothers and sisters, Sister Vanessa. Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah. So there's many benefits we derived and we can derive, right? One of the things that Sister Vanessa mentioned is just the Muslim uniform, if we can say, right? Meaning, especially for the sisters, the headscarf, right? that is such a big, that's such a big da'wah when you go out, outreach, meaning letting people know just by your identity, right? And so one should not shy away from it. One should do their best. One should do their best, right? And so we also see that someone introduced her to Islam, right? Meaning everyone in here has the same capability of letting somebody know about Islam. Not forcing, obviously, we can't force somebody, but to educate someone, to inform somebody about Islam. This is our duty as Muslims, to let people know, right? And so we want to do our best to do that. Also, Sister Vanessa mentioned something very important. That is ilm, education, knowledge, to further your knowledge and not to be comfortable, right? And this is something very important. And if you know, here at the Islamic Institute of Orange County, we have a very beautiful program called the College of Islamic Studies, or CIS. How many people are familiar with CIS, or College of Islamic Studies? Alhamdulillah. This is a program that's been designed here by Sheikh Mustafa Umar himself and with many volunteers and staff members on touching and elaborating on the basics of Islam, having a good foundation so that one can understand their faith and be comfortable in conveying this message, right? So actually the new quarter of CIS, College of Islamic Studies, is starting in about 5 days or something, right? So I would highly, highly encourage everyone here, if you have not done so already, please at least check it out. You can go to collegeislam.com, right? You can, there's about like 19 courses in total that's being offered, 3 live courses, okay? Which include public speaking skills, many different courses. The flyers are outside on the shelf. You can also go, as I mentioned, to collegeislam.com, right? And the big stand-up banner is here, as you cannot miss, to my right here. But please, brothers and sisters, I really, I encourage everyone to further your education, to know about this faith of Islam, right? Because we live in a society where it's being bombarded by false information. So if you're not equipped with knowledge, how will you talk back to them? How will you let them know about what is Islam, right? So do your best, inshallah. So having said that, our second guest, who's also very active in our community here, is Sister Sarahi Silva. And she's been, alhamdulillah, she's been part of this community. She's been active in many different events and helping new Muslims. So Sister Sarahi Silva, I'm going to ask her to come up here. And she's already up here, mashallah. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah. So I'm just going to ask you, like I asked Sister Vanessa, if it's okay, just keep it close to you so we can hear you. Because everybody wants to hear your great story to Islam, inshallah. How are you today, sister?
Alhamdulillah.
Are you nervous?
Yes.
So Sister Sarahi was a little bit nervous earlier, so I told her, I said, you know what? Having nerves is actually good because it makes the story authentic, right? This is not like staged or something like that, right? So meaning we want to encourage our sister. And this is something that's so great to listen to because this is how you and I will understand when you hear it from someone who actually went through that, right? So as I asked Sister Vanessa, I'm curious myself and I'm sure everybody's curious. Alhamdulillah, you're Muslim now, but what was your life like before Islam? If you don't mind, meaning did you come from a religious background? What kind of things were you doing?
I was raised as a Christian, but I was not really following it, you know. I was just...
Yes, we're hearing voices. It's okay? We're on it, inshallah, no worries. I don't know what that was. That's their cue. We have to go to line 16 now. Again, we gotta find line 6. Just kidding, inshallah.
I was following the crowd out there, you know. I was working out twice a day, trying to get the best body of my life, like they mentioned. I used to transforming myself, like putting a lot of makeup.
Okay.
I'm a certified makeup artist, so for me, makeup was
so
my
that was
passion.
big for you. That was your passion.
That was like my passion.
Certified makeup artist.
Yes.
Okay.
And for me, it was my passion. I wanted, you know, like every time I went out, my lashes, my brows, my cat liner had to be on point. And I used to go out on weekends, having fun with my friends. And by going out with my friends, I thought that was gonna fill this emptiness that I had, you know. But once I went out, had fun, I came home and I didn't. You know, I didn't have that fulfilledness that I wanted to have and feel. And I remember I was just getting tired of that life. You know, it's like one night, it was last year, it was the last time I went out. I came home, it was late, and I was just sad, you know, like really sad. And I I did pray once in a while, you know, just I always like, God, why is this happening to me? Or why, you know? But that night I wanted to pray. I really opened my heart to God, Allah. And I asked him, literally, these were my words. I was like, God, if you really exist, show me someone or to teach me how to love you. I want to love you because I know you exist. I know you exist, but I feel lost, you know? And
so you were praying to God directly at this point, or were you going through mediators or somebody?
No. I was praying to God, not as,
so
as
you
a
understood.
Christian, as the way I was raised. You know, I did my prayer.
Okay.
And that night, you know, I pray and I asked, you know, I have my son, and he was being raised without no idea of God. You know, sometimes his dad will take him to Catholic church. Sometimes I'll take him to every Easter. I'll go to church. And
so right around this time, like last year or a few years before you would, because Easter Sunday, right, coming up.
Yes.
You would go to the church and you would take, okay.
And I just asked God, you know, to help me, because I didn't want my son to grow like the way I was living, you know, like. And I did pray, and then time passed. I did found a church. I was attending to a Christian church, but still, it was just this emptiness, you know. But I didn't want to go out, like. I just didn't want to go out again, like clubbing and having fun for that. So it was in May. I went to a restaurant, and then there was, I don't know if I was curious or I just wanted to be bully. You know, there was this brother and this person, and I remember asking him like if he was from the Middle East, and he was like, because it was like
so it was like a restaurant, like a Middle Eastern restaurant you went to?
Yeah.
This is during your searching for God.
Yes.
And reaching out to God and asking him, guide me, show me the way. Now you fast forward, you go to a Middle Eastern restaurant.
Yes.
How did you end up there? Like,
because I live close to I live in Garden Grove, so there's this store, and so I wanted to eat, you know. And then I remember asking him, like, are you from the Middle East? He was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, are you Muslim? He's like, yes. And then I was like,
just straight, like you asked him, are you Muslim?
Yes.
Oh.
And then
You
I
got
was
some courage.
like, yeah. Then I was like, can I ask you a question? He's like, sure. I was like, why did you guys did the 9/11? I had that in my mind, you know, the 9/11.
Oh, 9/11.
You know, they're.
Okay, September 11th. So, okay. So you just asked him, like, why did you guys do September 11th?
Yeah.
Assuming that he did September 11th.
Yeah. I was like.
And he's in a Middle Eastern restaurant. Okay, got it.
And then he was like, you know.
This is very interesting stories. I'm telling you, everybody has a very unique story. You have to digest this if you can, right?
And then he was like, you know, in our religion, we're not allowed. You know, it's against Islam. I was like, oh, Islam? I didn't even know about Islam. And I was like, oh. And then he was like, could I ask you a question? And I was like, sure. And then he was like, have you ever searched or something about Islam? I was like, no. Everything that I know, it's about the media and TV, and that's it. And then he was like, I'm going to give you some links, and you can search. And if you have any questions, you can call me, and I can help you. And okay, I mean, I was not that interested on that.
Okay.
But
so at this point, he gave you, this individual gave you like some links about Islam?
Yes.
So this is your first introduction to Islam at this point right now?
Yes.
Okay. Did you look into these sources that he gave you, like the links, or did he give you a Quran or something like that? Okay.
I did, but I was not really interested. But I don't know, something, you know, made me call him.
Okay, something was still pushing you to, okay.
So then we were talking, I was asking him questions, and then we met. I remember when we met, he was like, you know, in Islam, a woman and a man cannot be together. I was like, oh, no, it's weird.
Oh. That was good, Mashallah.
And then...
Was that something that was a bit challenging to you, or maybe some different to you?
It was weird.
It was weird?
For me, it was weird.
Okay. Awkward?
Awkward, like, oh. And then, you know, I had a question. I was like, what is I have a question for you. He's like, sure. I was like, what is this Quran? You know, is this a Bible for you guys, or what is it? He's like, no, it's our guidance. I was like, a guidance? I was like, oh, and then he was like, you want me to recite a verse, a surah? And he was, I was like, sure. He's like, but you have to be quiet and listen to it. And then I'll say
He's
it
putting
in
conditions already.
He was like, I'll say it in Arabic, and then I'll translate it in English. And you know, I was there. It was probably like 2 minutes when I felt something going on in my head.
As
Like,
he's reciting?
yes, like
You
something really strong. And when he was doing that, you know, I was like kind of like shaking, and then my whole body just like paralyzed. And I don't know how to explain it, but my hand was just stiff, like I couldn't move it. And then this hand was going towards my heart.
Your right hand was just going towards your heart
towards
while
my
you're
heart.
shaking?
Yes, I was shaking and I was crying. I was like, okay, I'm not drunk.
Okay. Lemonade, right? Lemonade.
It was lemonade, I'm sorry.
Strong lemonade, that's what it was.
Strong coffee.
Coffee, okay. Inshallah.
So I was shaking, you know, I was like, I couldn't speak. I was kind of mumbling, but I couldn't say. I was like, God, what is going on? You know, I was asking God in my mind, you know, God, what is this? What is going on? Do you want me to follow his religion? Do you want me to follow him? What's going on? I was crying. And then when I said that, this hand dropped, and then I was doing this. I didn't know.
Wait, pause, wait. So, okay, you're shaking.
I'm shaking.
Right? Your hand was into your heart.
Yes.
Your hands dropped.
Yes.
Your hand dropped.
My hand
and
dropped.
your index finger is just...
Yes.
So as you know, like a part of our prayer for our guests and obviously for our audience, part of the prayer is when you put your index finger up, right? In tashahhud, right? So, and this obviously, you have no idea what that means. You don't know what's going on. You don't even really know Islam. You just start wiggling your index finger.
Yeah.
Subhanallah.
And then I remember I asked him, I was like, what's going on? You know, why me? Why me? I was asking God,
okay.
Why me? What is this going on? I knew it was not something normal. It was something not like, and then once I did this, like, it was probably like 5 minutes, but I felt like it was like an hour.
Sure.
And then, you know, I it just went away.
What was the guy thinking? Like, looking at seeing you, like, was he like trying to call 911 or something? Or?
He was really nervous when I saw him. His face was pale. And he was saying, Alhamdulillah, and then Astaghfirullah. I don't know how to say it.
You can tell he was pale?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And I was like, what happened? And then I was like, I have to go home, you know? And I was thinking on myself, like, okay, I got my own coffee, no?
Coffee again, remember, coffee.
Yeah, coffee. And I was thinking, while I was driving, I was like, what happened? You know, what had just happened? And
What did you do that night? What did you do? Like,
I couldn't sleep.
You couldn't sleep, so you're maybe tossing?
I got my phone, I was searching, I downloaded a Quran, then I
downloaded a Quran?
Yeah, I was reading my Bible, trying to see what happened.
So you're reading the Bible and the Quran right now, okay? And you're searching and okay,
yes.
Interesting.
And then, you know, I tried to search by myself, but I couldn't, because I didn't understand what just happened. I didn't have any knowledge of Islam. I was not interested, you know, like, but that made me like, you know, what happened? And then it was a Sunday, then Thursday I decided to call the brother, and I was like, can you please take me to your church? I thought it was a church. He's like, sure.
Oh, the mosque.
Yeah, I told him, and then I was like, oh, the mosque. I was like, yes. And it was on Thursday. So he was like, sure, I'll find a mosque, because it was time during Ramadan. So
this was in Ramadan?
Yeah.
Okay.
June. So he's like,
so two stories that have to deal with Ramadan. You can see the significance, brothers and sisters, mashallah.
And my first time or day was a Sunday on the new recommitted Muslim class.
Oh, the new recommitted Muslims class we have here every Sunday? That was when you came to the mosque?
Yes.
That was okay.
And I was like, oh. Like, I was like, oh, maybe they're going to judge me because I'm not covered, or going to stare at me, or, you know, I was like, oh. oh, because I never been into a mosque, you know, so I was
Sure.
like, oh. And alhamdulillah, the sisters that embraced me, they were really nice. I didn't get that rejection.
Okay.
And I started coming, and I got a mentor.
Okay.
And alhamdulillah, I love all the sisters.
So when you're coming and you got the mentor now, this is obviously before you accept Islam. So you're studying. How long did you study before you, before you made your decision? Right, you come to the mosque. I assume did you keep coming back to the mosque every Sunday after, or was it just that Sunday?
No, I kept coming.
You kept every Sunday. SubhanAllah. Where did you say, you know what, this makes sense, and this is what I think God is guiding me to, Islam? How did you come to that decision?
Well, the strongest for me was what I felt. That
Okay.
was like God, or it's a call or something.
Like
for
you
me,
heard your calling?
Yes, because I never felt that, and I knew it was not something that it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really, really, a really big decision for me that night. You know, that day. It was like,
Sure.
I have to go. But then, what it made me like confirm the sisterhood that we have. All the help that we have with the sisters, and alhamdulillah, I've been surrounded with so many sisters that they've been helping me, and we help each other.
Sure.
We love each other
SubhanAllah.
for the sake of Allah. You know, it's like there's no like judging, no like, we know that sometimes sisters invite me to halakas, and then I don't see this like, oh, I know more than her. It's
Sure.
nothing like that. You know, I really love this sisterhood that we have.
Take me through the actual Shahada, if you don't mind, when you became Muslim. How did you do it? Like, you just told one of the mentors, the sisters, or?
The brother helped me with the Shahada.
Okay.
The brother that was helping me with,
sure.
when he was reading the Quran, he helped me.
He helped you.
Because for me, what I felt, it was really strong. So I was like, this is, you know, like I was like, it's only one God. It's only one God.
And you believe that?
Yes.
Tawheed, oneness
Yes,
of God,
yes,
monotheism.
Yes.
SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. So, and that was, when you made that decision, how long ago was that?
9 months ago.
9 months, subhanAllah. 9 months. SubhanAllah. That's fast. And the thing is, why I mentioned that is because sometimes, you know, you might see a new Muslim and they accept Islam, right? Nobody follows up with them. Nobody does anything, and you don't hear from them ever again. And I think everybody in this room probably knows someone that something like this has happened to. So for a sister to say, I accepted Islam 9 months ago, and she's still here and she's very active, that's a blessing. That's a blessing, subhanAllah. And you won't realize that unless you're in somebody's shoes who went through that, right? So, I'm sorry, Sister Sarahi. So, now you're Muslim, alhamdulillah. Again, like I asked Sister Vanessa, I think for the audience, and especially for myself, the aspect of feedback, your advice. Especially first, I would like, you have a Hispanic background?
Yes.
Okay. Where are you originally from?
I was born in Mexico, but I was raised in California.
Okay. First thing I would ask is, what would you say to the Hispanic community out there, the Muslim and the non-Muslim community? For the non-Muslim community, many of them, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, they have no idea what Islam is.
Yeah.
They know very little, right? What would you say to them? And also for our Hispanic brothers and sisters, many who are accepting Islam, many in the audience today, what would you say to them as far as some advice? I don't mean to put you on the spot. But
I would ask them to search knowledge and that we're not terrorists.
okay.
Because a lot
Hence
of people
her 9/11 comment in the beginning,
Yes.
right? September 11th. So, inshallah.
Like my family, you know, they think
I'm clear.
that
I'm glad that misconception is cleared up, inshallah.
yeah, and that not all the Muslims are from Arabia. It's a worldwide religion. I thought I was ignorant. You know, I thought that all Muslims were from the Middle East.
Okay. Sounds good. I know your son is with us. I just wanted to recognize your son. Axel's in the back. Axel, if you just raise your hand. Aksa, did you want to say something up here or you're... Huh? Yes? Yes? So we actually, we have some good news. And the good news is this, that both Sister Sarahi and her son Axel would like to publicly accept Islam. They haven't publicly accepted Islam, and it was something that they wanted to do here in front of you, folks, brothers and sisters, on accepting Islam. So I'm going to call Axel up here. Axel, if you don't mind. Come up here. Don't be shy. Inshallah. We can just grab one chair there. Axel? Brother Sharif, inshallah. Right here. This is something that's very empowering too, brothers and sisters. I say this because Axel, if you can just turn a little bit to the audience, they want to see you. Can you start off by saying how old you are?
I am 12 years old.
12 years old. Where are you going to school right now?
Alamitos.
Where?
Alamitos Intermediate.
Alamitos Intermediate, okay. Now, again, as I mentioned, both Sister Sarahi and her son Axel would like to accept Islam publicly. So, and this is a blessing because this is something that they informed me earlier, but they weren't sure because Axel was a bit nervous. So he's like, no, don't put me on the spot. I don't want to do it. I said, okay, no problem. You know, I had to put him on the spot, but he was giving me the cue. And also Sister Sarahi, they went to do it. And you have to understand, this is something that's something to empower us as a community. That is that, imagine the reward that one gets. Imagine what somebody gets when somebody accepts Islam, meaning the one who's helping them, all by the permission of Allah, by God. But imagine the reward, the ajr that comes with this. So having said that, if it's okay, I'm going to say it in English. If you can just both repeat after me. And then I'm going to say it in Arabic. And if you can repeat after me, inshallah. So publicly, you would like to announce it, we'll be more than happy to do that, inshallah. So just repeat after me, okay? Both of you. I bear witness, that there is, no God, worthy of worship, but Allah. And I bear witness, but I bear witness, and I bear witness, sorry, that Muhammad is his servant, and messenger. Okay, now we're going to do it in Arabic. Take your time, just repeat after me. Soon you'll be speaking Arabic fluently. All right, take your time. Ashhadu alla ilaha illa Allah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. May Allah reward you. May Allah bless you both. I am so happy that I was a part of this, because this is something that's like when you see a mother, a parent, and her child accepting this message. This is so beautiful, and we, as a community, we pray the best for you. We pray you have the best not only in this life, but the life to come. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Axel be the coolness of your eyes, and that you both work together, and that this message of Islam is something within the Latino community that you can go back and convey to. You know, that they need it. We all need it. But this community, Allah has blessed you that you can speak the language. Most of us, we probably know a little bit, más o menos, right? A little bit about Islam. But alhamdulillah, we have, Allah has blessed our community with so many people that speak so many different languages. So may Allah reward you and bless you. Thank you so much, Sister Sarahi, and her son, Axel, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, you can take that back. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Woo! It's like, subhanallah. I'm gonna, you know, it's, you know, when you, it's one thing to talk to somebody about Islam. It's another thing when you're in a situation, by Allah's mercy, when somebody accepts Islam, right? And this is a blessing, and this is something that it's far beyond words of how to explain. So we ask Allah to accept from all of us. We ask Allah to give us the best, not only in this life, but the life to come, inshallah. So as we mentioned, we have 3 guests. So with us, our 3rd guest, and again, no stranger to our community, and most of you probably know, it's our dear brother Randy. I'm going to ask Randy to come up, inshallah. I have to switch the waters around, so the water goes here. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Randy. How are you? Oh, that would be good, right, if I gave him the microphone. I gave the water, no mic, though. Inshallah, jazakallah khair. Aren't you supposed to be mentoring right now? With the youth?
Yes, but they're playing games, so inshallah they'll be fine. Yeah, you saw me walk out because the voice I recognized is one of my students on the mic, so I had to go scold him a little bit. That's the reason why I stormed out of here. I knew who he was.
He was telling me, again, go to line 16, page 2, so he was giving me the clue. So that's why Randy had to go on and say, no, not yet. Don't cut the, you know.
I knew who he was, and he doesn't have the mic anymore, obviously.
Yeah,
so,
alhamdulillah.
right.
Somebody else might pick it up, right? So,
right, somebody else. And then,
but don't run out. We need you here.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. How are you doing today, my dear brother?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. Actually, I was very... Randy is someone that I really wanted to speak to, and especially like personally, but I wanted the community to hear his story too. Because that is someone that's, if you're familiar with this masjid and you frequent it a lot, you attend a lot, you see Randy here a lot. And he's someone who's very active in this community. I see a lot of people standing. I see some chairs. If you want to fill in the gaps, that'll be great. So we don't have our brothers and sisters standing. You're most welcome to fill in the gaps and the empty chairs, inshallah. So everybody can sit. If you choose to stand, no problem. So Randy, I wanted to ask you, because we want to get to your story about Islam, definitely, right? But there's always things that lead people to accepting the message of Islam, right? There's always some gems. Either somebody talked to you, somebody gave you a Quran. As a side point, right? We talk about passing out free English translations of the Quran, right? So one time, I think it happened to me, but it's something that happened to a few people that I know. We're at a stall like this, right? Like at a mall or a festival, and we're passing out Qurans. And we say, free English translation of the Quran, free. So somebody comes up to us and said, what did Quran do? Anybody get it? Free Quran. They thought Quran was a person who was locked up in jail or prison. So we're saying free Quran. They're like, what did Quran do? As if like Quran did. So that's the kind of like society or environment that we're living in right now, right? So you have to... okay, everybody gets it like 10 minutes later. It's okay, alhamdulillah. But this is true though, I'm not just making it up. This actually happens, right? So, alhamdulillah. I'm sure you weren't of those people, right? They were asking that question. So, tell me a little bit about your life before Islam, if you don't mind.
Prior to me accepting Islam, growing up, I'm from Long Beach, California, which is...
Strong Beach, that's how we say it.
For those that know, it's 20 minutes down the 91. But I used to go to what is known as a Southern Missionary Baptist Church. And for those of you that are not aware of what that is, that's basically my church was all black people, literally. There was literally all black people. We had one white guy, and he was married to a black woman, and his name was Walter, and he was cool with everybody, but that was it. And we had a couple of mixed sisters and brothers in there, but everybody else was black. So... it's the old school Southern church, you go to church at 8 a.m., you're not leaving until 3 p.m. type of stuff. You're in there all day, everybody knows each other, a lot of hooting and hollering, speaking in tongues, the whole 9 yards or whatever. And was really active there. I did a lot of ministries, a lot of play productions, all kinds of things. I even played Jesus in a play once.
You played Jesus in a play?
I was strung up on the cross in the whole 9 yards.
Did you have to wear like a thobe? Or
it was well, because what happened was they wanted me to in traditional images of when you see, the prophet Isa, I don't want to, Jesus, when you see him on the cross in the Catholic or Christian tradition, he's kind of in these like these underwear kind of thing. He's not really clothed. So they were like, we want him to wear that. And then my mom was like, no, he needs to have clothes on. And I was glad she did that because at the time I had already had 2 tattoos. So, I would have been in front of her.
She didn't know about it?
She didn't know, no. So
you added some to the collection.
But so that happened, and I was very involved in my church. I was actually even next in line to be one of the deacons of the church. Like I was studying to become a deacon. Deacons are not necessarily the pastors, but they're more like the assistants, things like this. And I was supposed to be in line next for that position actually. So that was up to about 2008. 2008, I joined the army,
So let's say in
go ahead.
2008. So you say you come from a Baptist background, right?
Correct,
Denomination.
yes,
You mentioned speaking in tongues and a few things. Take me through one of your services, because most people here. How many have actually been to a church before?
But the thing is, you got to understand is that a Southern Missionary Baptist Church is not like.
Tell us the difference if you can, or take us through maybe a day of worship or an event.
So.
Like an overview.
Okay, so an overview is like this. You wake up on a Sunday around like 7 a.m., you get dressed, and you put on this like fancy suit. You know, my mom's putting on, at this time she was still wearing stockings. I don't know if females still wear stockings, but, you know, she's wearing stockings, and, you know, you got to get dressed and all this stuff. You get in the car, you know, and then you go to church. And Sunday school is the first event. Sunday school usually started around like 9 a.m., and that ran for maybe like an hour and a half. So then after Sunday school, there was like a brief break, and then everybody went into the church. And then, you know, it's not like when you come here and then the sheikh just comes on, talks, and then you can get on with the rest of your day. No, it doesn't work like that. What happens is that there's deacons that come up and they have to sing. And then they got to sing like 5 songs, and then everybody's got to join in, and they got to get the church all warmed up and all these different things, you know.
And these songs are. Like,
these songs are. We're talking about. I mean,
we're not talking about. Like,
we're not.
No, go ahead. I don't want
we're talking about songs that are like that are Christian-like in a sense. You know what I mean? Songs that
like from the Bible,
not necessarily from the Bible, but
from
a lot of the songs. Like I said, it was a Southern Missionary Baptist Church, so a lot of the songs that we sang were ones that had been passed on from plantation days. In that sense, songs that slaves had sung. You know, like I said, it's not. You got to understand something. I hate to say it like this, but a black church is a lot different from a white church in the sense of the way that things go down. I don't know what it is, but it's like black people have to like repeat everything 5 times, like it's in case God didn't hear him the first time. So it just, you know, it takes a while for things to happen. So the thing is that when these guys get up in there and sing, they could be up there for, you know, an hour almost just singing songs, and everybody's just like, you know, whatever, going with the flow, bringing on tambourines and all that 9 yards. And then the announcements are made, the church announcements come up, you know, and it takes like 5 minutes to get to those, you know. Then offering comes, and that's when they pass around the plate, and, you know, you put your money in there. If you don't have it, you keep passing it or whatever. And then there's another song that's sung, and then the pastor comes up, and then that's like when it goes down. Like, that's when people start speaking in tongues, run up and down aisles and stuff. All these crazy stuff. Pastor almost passes out, you know what I mean? He's sweating, suit, you know, ties all loosened up at this point and everything. And then we do at the end, which is actually called the benediction. And the benediction is when they actually call people up to accept Christ into their life. Now, not many people know about that. Now, benediction is at the end of most church services, is when the deacons and the pastor will stand there and they will encourage people to come up there and give their life to Christ in the sense of being saved, and what the Christian sense of being saved is, which is when you accept Jesus into your life as your Lord and personal Savior, and you believe He died on the cross for your sins. And this happens every Sunday.
Okay.
So you just have this great lesson, and you're like, whoa, and then they're like, yeah, and then you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then you walk up there, and you do it. And I mean, I did it twice, personally.
Twice?
Yeah, it's
that's a very long day.
Very long day. And then after that, you know, man, everybody gathers outside and talks, and then everybody goes home, and then, you know, that's just Sunday. I mean, there's all kinds of activities that happen, but that's Sunday, though.
You mentioned, Randy, like before you elaborate a little bit, that you mentioned the military.
Right.
So tell me about that, because we have, as most of us know here, many Muslims actually accepting Islam from the military, right? From the different branches. So we actually have one here, obviously. Randy. Tell me.
So 2008, that was when I joined the military. 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I was in the Army. I was in boot camp. And one reason why I joined was because I didn't want to go to college, and which is really ironic because I'm in college now. But at the time, so you got to understand something, is that coming from where I come from and going to, my church was in Compton, and I'm living in Long Beach. So the area that I'm surrounded in is not a very good, it's not a very pleasant area. You know what I mean? So there's not many options for me and my friends in that sense. Out of all my friends, out of maybe 7 of my friends, 2 of us have gone to school, and 1 graduated already. I'm the only other one that has gone to school. So there's not really many options for us as to what we can do. And I knew that I didn't want to go to college. Okay. So I was like, I got to do something. I got to get out of here. But the thing is, you guys understand is that, you know, September 11th happened in 2001. So it's 2008. And I don't know anything about Muslims. All I knew was that Arabs were, at the time from when I thought, Arabs were killing everybody and blowing everybody up. That was what I had in my head. This is what I had in my head. So I figured, yeah, y'all good? All right. So anyways, I figured, you know, I want to get out of here. I want to get out of this city. I might as well go, you know, somewhere and cause chaos. You know what I mean? And like I said, it wasn't like my options were very limited at the time.
Where'd you end up? Where did you go serve?
So I did most of my time in North Carolina, Fort Bragg area. I don't know if anybody's familiar with North Carolina, but I also did a year in Afghanistan, and that's actually.
So from Compton, you went to Afghanistan.
Well, no, not from Compton. Every Sunday I was in Compton, right?
Over Long Beach, Long Beach.
So I went from Long Beach to North Carolina to Afghanistan, but I had already been exposed to what I thought was Islam in high school.
Okay, so you were exposed to what you thought was
to what I
right?
thought Islam was. Yes.
You go to Afghanistan, right? It must have been like a cultural shock, maybe, or something different from the norm of what you're used to, right?
Very so. Yeah.
Take us through maybe your first day or your first week in Afghanistan. Where in Afghanistan, if you don't mind?
I was in Kandahar for 6 months, and then I spent another 6 months in Spin Boldak, and that's all the southern part of Afghanistan. Right.
So how were the people there? I mean, take us through it, like your first day there, right?
So you got
like,
the thing is that like I said, my first exposure to Islam was in high school, but that was through Malcolm X. Like most, black teenage males at that age, once you hear about Malcolm X and how he has, before he went to Hajj, not after he went to Hajj, before he went to Hajj, Malcolm was like this, big, we're against the white man type of thing. Being in high school, a young black male, that's going to like play into like your right away. You know what I mean? That's exactly what you want to hear. You want to hear that it's not your fault, that your family's struggling and all these different things and all this stuff. So, but the thing was that's what I thought Islam was in the sense of like the Nation of Islam doctrine, in the sense of like Louis Farrakhan and that type of stuff. So I found myself like in high school, I hate to say it, but I was a little bit racist towards white people because of like I had this kind of like this Nation of Islam kind of doctrine going in my head. So I stopped eating pork, but I wasn't like, I didn't take no Shahada, I didn't read no Quran or anything. I just studied Farrakhan and like the Nation of Islam and Malcolm and things like this. So when I got to Afghanistan, I mean, you gotta, when you first get to Afghanistan, you step off the plane, it's not like you just go right into action. Right. It takes a while. You got to get processed in. I mean, you're there for a year. So things just don't happen right out of the way. But that was the first exposure I had to real Muslims, though, was in Afghanistan. And the first thing that I noticed about them when I first got there was that these people were so hospitable. There wasn't, like, I thought we were going to get there and walk in these villages, people were going to be spitting at us, throwing rocks, kids coming up, kicking us in our shins, all these kinds of things. But
the common things.
Right. Yeah, these are things you expect. But when we got there, it was the complete opposite. It was like, do you want, like, I mean, obviously they aren't speaking English. We had, interpreters. But they're asking, do you want bread? Do you want water? They didn't have much. They have, I mean, we're in what would be called the third world part of Afghanistan because Kabul is built up. The capital of Afghanistan, it looks like cities. But Kandahar is still very third world country in the sense that they don't have running water. They're living in, claymate housing and things like this. Right. So that was my first exposure to Muslims. Not necessarily Islam, but Muslims, though.
Now, did they talk to you about, when serving food and giving you certain things here and there, did they ever talk to you about Islam through interpretation or somebody? Or did they ever give you literature?
No, not lit, because the thing is, in Kandahar, the people, the good majority of them are illiterate.
Okay.
So they have Qurans, but they can't read them. So everything they know about Islam, it's kind of unfortunate, but everything they know about Islam is through word of mouth. So they have a lot of things in that part of Afghanistan that they don't practice correctly, now that I know Islam. But looking back at it, there's a lot of things there that they don't practice. And some things that if I told you right now, you wouldn't believe me. There's a lot of things there that they don't practice correctly in those parts of Afghanistan because they can't.
Yeah. So it might be just a.
Because they.
Is that one of your
yeah.
students? One of your
I don't know. I was waiting for it, but
okay.
there's things there that they don't practice correctly
Sure,
because
sure.
they can't read the Quran. They're illiterate, so everything they do is word of mouth.
So now the seeds are being planted about Islam, so to speak, with the people.
I wouldn't say Islam yet, but it's more about Muslims though.
Muslims, okay.
But you gotta understand something too, is that at the same time, okay, you know, there's certain Muslims that are showing me hospitality, but at the other time I'm getting shot at.
Ah, okay.
So it's kind of like, you know, it's not resonating yet. You know what I mean?
So you spend 1 year there, right?
Correct,
You
1
get,
year.
You see what's going on. You see it from the front lines, obviously, right?
Yes.
You come back now. Do you come back to North Carolina, or do you come back to Long Beach, or?
I came back
how does
when
it-
I got out of Afghanistan. I went back to North Carolina.
Was that your choice, meaning leaving, or how did they?
Oh, I mean, you only in the army you do the tours you do. Or is a year. It's a standard year.
Okay.
So after so it was from July 2010 to July 2011.
Okay.
But it was in Afghanistan in the last like 3 to 6 months that I realized that Christianity wasn't correct. I don't want to say it wasn't correct, but that it stopped making sense. I mean, you know what? No, it had already stopped making sense, but it was then that I knew I wasn't a Christian anymore.
Okay. So you didn't identify yourself as a Christian at this point.
At this point, no, I did not identify myself as a
Did
Christian.
you still
no.
believe in God though at this point, or were you kind of like a 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or totally rejected the concept of a creator?
I wouldn't say it was rejecting I knew that there was something greater.
Okay.
You know, because there was at one point in my life when I was about 14 years old when I thought I had gone atheist, but my mom was actually one that brought me back because she told me she said, if you look at the mountains, do you really think that that's just like a coincidence, like how beautiful they look? Like you think it just, you know, according to what they teach you in school? And I was like, no, all right, so there's something greater out there, obviously. But when I was in Afghanistan, that's when, you know, because the thing is, you got to understand something. In the military, you don't think because you're not paid there to think. The thing is that the military is a great system in the sense of like everything is there for you because you don't need to think. Because everybody above you is telling you what to do. They're telling you how to feel, how to act, how to go about your day, what uniform to wear, things to do. So you don't question anything because you're not supposed to. But the thing is, once you start questioning things, that's when things don't start making sense to you. Okay. So the thing is, what I started to question soon was, why are we here? Why are we in Afghanistan right now? Like, why am I here in this country right now? And then that's when I started questioning things, and that's when, you know, I started kind of being like, the door started, I started kind of looking around and I'm like, all right, that's not making sense, but that is. And so that's when it kind of, you know, the pieces started to fall into place. I mean, it's much deeper and there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But that's kind of a little basic sense of it though, yeah.
Take me now, or take us through you saying, you know what, you come into researching Islam now. You come into more about saying, you know what, this is something that's getting deeper and greater in me. I want to know more about this when you come back.
Okay, well, so what happens is that, you gotta understand is that a lot of my research about Islam happens in Afghanistan.
Okay.
So in Afghanistan, when troops are there, big companies, they tend to send a lot of care packages to soldiers, and they send sometimes books and things like this. And there was this book that had been sent to our company, as in our, you know, our battalion of soldiers or whatever you want to call it, and it was called Islam in Focus. Now the thing is that you got to understand something is that everybody's living in close quarters. Everybody's living in very close quarters. So the thing is that people lose things really easily. Things are spread out really easily. So we get this box of books and everybody's like, oh yeah, I want this book, I want this book. So then they take like this book. So then there's like, let's say this is the Islam in Focus book, and everybody's like, what? Islam? Yeah, we don't care. And they start kind of tossing it around. Everybody's like, I don't want it. So it ends up on another guy's bed, ends up on another guy's bed, and ended up on my bed. And I remember I got back to my bunk, and I was looking at it, and I was like, you know what? This is going to keep being tossed around. Let me do something with it. So I had this big trunk, big box where I stored my stuff at. I took this book, and I stuffed it literally all the way at the bottom. I was like, I'm not going to have any use for this book. I'm just getting rid of it.
Right.
Whatever. Didn't see it for like another 3-4 months. The book is just sitting there. But in that 3 to 4 months, that's when I started realizing things. That's when I'm like, wait a minute, this part of Christianity isn't making sense anymore. this part of Islam is starting to make sense. Louis Farrakhan is wrong. Malcolm after Hajj is this. Blah, 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 blah. Reach down to the bottom of the trunk, like, oh, snap, pull the book out, start reading it, and then that's when things started kind of like, I'm like, but the thing was, even at that time in Afghanistan, I still rejected it. Because the thing is, it's like sometimes I feel as human beings that we reject the truth. You know what I mean? Like, we watch the news and things like this, and we know what really goes on and stuff like this, but we still ignore it because sometimes we're scared of it. You know what I mean? We don't want to touch it. We're like, no, it's too much. I'd rather live by the lies. Sure. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the lies are easy to live with, but the truth catches up to you.
Though your heart, let's say, was opening up, let's say, right?
Right.
Were you in a way afraid or maybe scared of what your fellow
very much
friends
so.
or
Very much so. Very much so. I mean, you got to think about it, is that the majority of these guys, I mean, if you put yourself in a situation where every day you're losing people on your teams, essentially, to the opposite team. And then you're going to have one guy on your team be like, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling that religion of the other team now. So, yeah, it's something I didn't share, no. It was something very secretive, yes.
Tell us now how you came to the conclusion.
To the conclusion?
The conclusion of you saying, you know what, I want to do this.
It was...
Because so far, I mean, you're going through a lot. You're going from the church. You're going to the military. You end up in Afghanistan. Right. North Carolina to Afghanistan. Now you come back. What made you actually say, you know what, I want to do this?
It was one specific incident that happened in Afghanistan, actually, with a man whose name I never got his name, actually. But it was one incident that happened in which he... I don't know. Do I have time to tell this story? Do I have time? So bear with me. It's a little bit. It's a little edgy.
A few minutes.
Okay. So if you would imagine the gate outside, the gate where everybody pulls into their cars. Now, if you would imagine that gate in the road that comes up State College, but if you would imagine State College, instead of running this way, it runs this way. So let's say the 91 is lined up directly with our gate, right? So if you would imagine trucks pulling in to the gate. Right? Let's say this place is, I don't know, some sort of factory or something. So in Afghanistan, I was on guard once in a truck, in an up-armored truck with a friend of mine, and he was sitting, you got to imagine that in Afghanistan, I mean, we've got big guns, like really big ones. And so he's standing on top of this truck, and he has what's known as a 50 cal. And every time a 50 cal shoots, sounds like thunder. This is not even an exaggeration, it really does. And I'm sitting at the bottom of the truck, and I'm basically what's known as the foot soldier, and he's the one that mans the gun. So what happens is that we're standing guard at this gate, like this right here. We're not to let anybody inside the gate. We can't let anybody in. That was our job. But we were tasked, like I said, you don't think. You just do. You don't question why it happens. You just, if somebody tells you, hey, don't let nobody in this gate by any means, you don't let nobody in this gate by any means. So it's like, all right, whatever. Don't question it. So these trucks start to pull in. And you got to, I hate to say this about the Afghan drivers, but they can't drive. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying in America.
In here.
I'm not saying America, but in Canada, they can't drive. They get into accidents all the time. I don't understand why. But so they all kind of just start piling up. They all start piling up, but they see us standing there. So when they see us standing there, they're kind of like, okay, we're not going to get past these guys. Now, the thing is that these trucks are delivery trucks. Their job is to deliver products inside of this, this base that we're guarding. That's their job. Problem is that they can't get past us. They see us standing there, and it's automatically in their heads registered, which is very sad, but it's registered automatically that, okay, we can't get past them. There's no way that we can get past them because we know what their job is. We know what they're here for. They're not going to let us in. Now, it wasn't in the sense of that we thought they were bad guys. No, it was just like, we just can't let you guys in. So what happens is that it was a yellow truck. It was this huge yellow truck, and he pulls up. A guy gets out the truck, right? So I'm looking at him. I'm like, why is he getting out the truck? He knows better. Like, he knows he's not supposed to get out this truck right now. So I'm sitting in the vehicle, and my friend is like, he's looking out, and he's like, and he was from New Jersey, so he had this real heavy accent. He's like, yo, I don't know why he's getting out the truck, man. I don't know what he's doing, you know? And I'm like, yeah, dude. And you know what I'm saying? I'm like, bro, I don't even know what this dude's doing right now. You know what I mean? So he gets out the truck, and he has a folder. He has a little folder in his hand. It was a yellow folder, like his yellow truck. And he gets out, but he's wearing a thobe, very long thobe. So you have to imagine that, you have to put yourself in the position that At this point, anybody wearing a thobe is considered dangerous because you don't know what's underneath that thobe. And I mean, this is the mentality. This is the mentality that you have to have in combat situations. So he begins to walk. He begins to walk. And I'm like, oh no, I'm like, no, don't. I'm in my head, I'm like, please don't walk. I'm like, please do not walk up here right now because I know it's going to have to happen. Because I knew what my orders were. I knew what I was told to do. I was not supposed to let anybody in that gate. And there's a reason why we have weapons. So he keeps on walking. But the thing is that he's walking and he's got this giant smile on his face. He looks like the Joker. Like he's just walking with this giant smile. And I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? So at this point, I'm like, okay, either one, he's like a loony, or two, he's got a death wish. I'm thinking this in my head. I'm like, that's it. He keeps on walking, but you have to imagine, it's not like from here to the door. I'm talking about like maybe from the apartments across the street. And so he just keeps on walking. He just keeps on walking. So I get out the truck, and I put my hand up. I'm like, stop. You know, obviously.
You're telling him to stop.
I'm telling him to stop. I'm putting my hand up. Obviously, the man doesn't speak English, but he knows what stop is. Okay. Like most Afghans do, which is very sad, unfortunately, again. But he doesn't stop. He just keeps on walking. He just keeps on walking. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Oh. So I take my weapon, and I point it at him. And I'm telling him to stop. And I keep telling him to stop, stop, stop. He keeps on walking. Keeps on walking, and he keeps on walking. So he's getting closer. He's getting closer. He's getting closer.
You're still shouting to him.
I'm not, at this point, I'm shouting at him, but my hands aren't in the air. My hands are like this.
Okay.
Because I'm aimed at him. Right, I'm ready to go because I don't know what this guy has. I don't know what he's going to do. You know what I mean?
Just trying to give you something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, brother, what's going on with this guy. Just keeps on walking. So I have my friend in the truck, and he's like, yo, you want me to take him out? I'm like, no, don't do nothing yet. Let's just, don't do nothing yet. So the guy has a folder in his hand. He walks up, and he keeps on walking. So he's walking, and he still has this smile on his face. And then he puts his other hand up, kind of like, he's like this. He's kind of like, you know, like, hey, you know what I mean? Kind of like got this little look on his face or whatever. Now, the thing is that you have to understand something is that at this point, strategically speaking, tactically speaking, in the sense of a military sense, I could have shot him because he kept walking. He ignored my warnings.
Sure.
He could have been dangerous. I don't know. But the thing is that I didn't shoot him.
Something was holding
something was telling me not to pull the trigger.
Okay.
So I'm ready, but something is telling me don't do it, right? So he walks up, and now at this point he's probably maybe he's like maybe like 10 feet from me. And he's like 10 feet from me, and he smiles again. He's still smiling,
sure. But
his smile kind of changes. You know what I mean? He's still smiling. So I look at him, and I'm like, are you crazy? I'm like, you know, he doesn't speak English, but I'm looking at him, I'm like, what is wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? And then he just opens up the folder. He opens up the folder, and he's trying to show me the papers for his delivery. And I'm telling him, I'm like, you can't deliver today. You can't come in here right now. And then all of a sudden, he starts speaking English.
He starts speaking English?
He starts speaking English. He's like, oh, sorry, I did not know, you know, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, what? Like, I had a gun pointed at you. Like, you could have died. And this is where I knew that Islam was something, it was something beyond that I could even comprehend. Yeah. Because he looks at me, and he says, and you have to imagine, now I want you to imagine that, I'm like, this is exactly how it is. So he's here, he's right there, and he looks at me, and he smiles, and he says, I only fear Allah. And he points with his finger, his right finger like this. He looks up like this, and he says, I only fear Allah. And I'm like, okay, like, good for you, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you need to fear these bullets, you know what I mean? But, well, it's like I said, this is the mentality. I have to understand this is my mentality at the time. I'm very ignorant at the time or whatever. And so he's like, and he just says this. And I'm like, all right, dude, like, take your folder, go back to your truck, wait a while, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I go back to my bunk that night, and then it hit me. It hit me, and I was like, no. Like, that, what? You know what I mean?
Deeper,
like something deeper hit me because he had no fear. Right. There was no fear in this.
So it sunk in later on, basically.
It sunk in later on because at the time you have to understand something is that when you're in a combat situation, when you're in combat mode, you have so much your body's in a different place. It's in a different mindset. You know what I mean? So you're not thinking straight when it comes to certain things, certain aspects. So it didn't hit me later on until what this man had said. And when that hit me, that's when I was like, okay, like I get it, I get it. You know, I looked up and I was like, all right. I get what you're trying to tell me right now. You know what I'm saying? I can't ignore it anymore.
Sign after sign after sign.
Can't ignore the truth anymore. Right. And I'm starting to realize, like, all right, this is it.
In the few minutes that we have, take me. I want to know your Shahada. When you actually declare, because all these things led up to it, right?
Right.
Tell me that if you can in the next like.
So I took Shahada here, actually in the Masala.
At
IIOC, yes. And Samer, President of the IIOC was one that actually.
MashaAllah.
I don't know where he's at, but he was one that actually delivered my Shahada. I don't know how else to phrase that. Right. But yeah, he helped me, you know, take my Shahada, and it was after that that I felt at home. I felt complete. I mean, I still have my fair share of struggles, but I felt. Like I had no more, like there was something missing in my life. And then when I took my Shahada, it was like the last puzzle.
It just fit, the last piece fit.
It fit in there, and I was like,
Allahu Akbar.
Boom.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah.
But yeah, so.
Jazakallah khair. Again, I wish, subhanAllah, you know, when you just start getting into stories, we can sit for hours. But I want to respect everybody's time. But I want to call up all of our panelists, inshallah, Sister Vanessa, Sister Sarahi, if you can come. We want to do our QA session right now. If I can have Brother Waleed help me out with the mics here. Now, I would love for everyone to ask questions or comments, suggestions. Obviously, we probably won't be able to take all of them. But if you can just do me a favor, Brother Waleed is going to go around. Just raise your hand, inshallah. We'll get the mic to you. Just kindly just introduce yourself or just pose your question, inshallah, and direct it to whichever one of the speakers you would like to ask the question to, inshallah.
I don't think this is it on? Up here. Yeah. It is something I wear every day, and it was like a month it took me, and I would wear it outside, but I wouldn't wear it at work. That was the hardest obstacle for me, was to go into the workplace with it. But it's something that you have to feel inside of you to do, and it's the most beautiful thing. And it's only, the way my personal feeling about it is every sister has that option, and it's something that I think that they have to feel to do inside of them.
I'll just pass you this mic.
For me, I wear it most of the time, but sometimes when I go with my family, I don't. But it's just complete submission to Allah.
Okay, inshallah.
That's it.
I just been notified. I know it's 9:30 and we have Isha prayers. So what we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and we have to cut it short. I wanted to take more questions. What we'll do is this: we have our speakers here. We want to respect everybody's time and especially Isha prayers. So what we'll do is our speakers will be here afterwards. Are you available? Just want to double check before I say you are. For a few minutes, yeah. They'll be here. Anybody wants to ask any type of personal questions or any type of questions directed to them, you're most welcome to ask. Again, I wish I had more time. It's 9:30. We have to get the prayers going, inshallah. So with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to accept. Remember, we have our sign-up sheet outside. For those of you, before you get up, please, for those of you that want to sign up as a mentor for new Muslims. They need mentors, right? Those of you that want to be behind dawah tables, pass out free literature. For those of you that want to help in any aspect of our outreach team, I highly encourage you, please, on your way out, sign up on our sign-up sheet, your email address and your name. And if you're somebody, one of our non-Muslim guests are in attendance, we have free English translations of the Quran and pamphlets. Help yourself outside, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you all. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.